This is Dr. Eui-Seok Seo, plastic surgery specialist in Area 88. You've probably heard the term mid-cheek a lot. But no one knows of this accurately. Thus one is unsure which parts will improve and which will remain the same when he or she undergoes surgery. So I will classify the different mid-cheeks, then explain the lower eyelid and SOOF, SubOrbicularisOculi Fat. Mid-cheek is called mid-face or mid-cheek. Doctors were using mid-face and mid-cheek indistinctly, so Dr. Mendelsohn made a distinction. The mid-face indicates the part in yellow on the left and the mid-cheek on the right. Dr. Mendelsohn divided the mid-cheek into three parts, the lower eyelid, zygoma, and the nasolabial fold. This is divided using folds as boundary. Dr. Mendelsohn's mid-cheek picture actually includes the lower eyelid, but in real surgery, a separate operation is performed to the lower eyelid in yellow and the purple area below it. Dr. Rowsley argued that when doing a facelift, what's called malar fat pad is important, that it should be pulled up like in the picture. This is a video of his dissection from then, having a debate with Dr. J.Marten. Dr. J.Marten also placed great importance on elevating that area, but he disagrees with the term malar fat pad. Often malar means zygoma, but he says that's just a part of the cheek fat. However, many doctors continue to use this term. So Dr. J.Marten acknowledges it also, later in time. However, that topic came out in 1991, and as the study of anatomy develops, research on the mid-cheek area also develops significantly. One of those is the fat compartment. This fat compartment is divided into the superficial fat in red and the deep fat in green. The malar fat pad Dr. Rowsley spoke of is the superficial fat layer in red, and it is divided into several parts like so. But in the mid-cheek there is also a deep fat layer in green. And it represents a completely different layer of fat from the malar fat pad. The deep fat layer under the eyes is referred to as SOOF, and lifting this area is SOOF lift. This divides into inner and outer side. The deep fat layer in the nasolabial region on the right cannot be operated with facelift or lower eyelid surgery. You must know the layers in that area. This is a very important anatomical picture. The region in red with the red arrow is the superficial fat layer, and the region in green with the green arrow is the deep fat layer. Even if you're getting fillers, it's very important which arrow region they should be injected into. There are many cases where the under eyes look more bulging or swollen after injecting fillers. It is also very important which arrow layer to lift during lower blepharoplasty or facelift. Another important thing in the lower eyelid is the thickness of the skin. It gets thicker as you go down and then even more with superficial fat. In this anatomical picture only the skin has been removed, but you can see the superficial fat layer in the lower part. That part is the boundary between the lower eyelid and cheek. It proves things are not as simple as the under eye is sunken, so just fill it with filler or fat repositioning. This is a photo taken with superfine ultrasound. The yellow part on the right represents the dermis. You can tell that it gets thicker as you go down. Then under that dermis you can see the superficial fat layer. The reason thickness of skin hair is important is, if this is a reoperation, the skin has thickened due to scars, so when pretarsal thickening is made, it will not appear due to this thick skin and scar. In most cases, the commonly known the border which looks sunken under the eyes is often explained through ligaments, and filling this border area with something or relocating the fat under the eyes is known to solve it, but the area due to borders from that skin, superficial layer, and SOOF, SubOrbicularisOculi Fat, is not resolved. These are very important for surgeries and procedures such as lower blepharoplasty, under eye fat repositioning, ectropion, and under eye fillers. For this same reason fat repositioning alone is effective in some cases and in others. It is also why even after lower blepharoplasty via incision, situations rise where results are unnatural or ectropion occurs while the border still remains. Thus it is common when doing lower blepharoplasty to also get SOOF lift. Furthermore, getting SOOF lift can secure thin skin close to the eyes as much as possible. Therefore the amount of most important skin during ectropion surgery can be obtained. And as much as possible, thin skin should be raised. For these reasons there are limitations to an operation when a skin graft has been done or thick scars have formed on the skin. Thus it is necessary to know the mid-cheek, that is, the mid-cheek region accurately, in order to perform effective surgery and procedures. It is very important when deciding on fat repositioning, lower eyelid and SOOF lift, the layer to inject fat/filler, etc. Furthermore, the SOOF lift is used because it is necessary to secure as much extra skin as possible in ectropion correction, and in most cases, there is no need for skin graft even if ectropion is severe. Also during mid-cheek lift, SOOF lift and subperiosteal lift are completely separate matters. Next time, I will explain the lower eyelid and SOOF lift, the difference between subperiosteal lift and SOOF lift, and ectropion surgery. Thank you.